Hello world, it's Friday 28th of January and we're looking at the weather forecast for the Worcester Magic Soaring weather for tomorrow the 29th of January. We'll start off with a look at the cloud base. This is 5 o'clock for the whole area, and as you can see there are no clouds, it's totally blue. So let's have a look at Worcester itself and see quickly. We have a inversion at about 4,500 feet, a maximum temperature of about 31 degrees, and a southeasterly wind becoming easterly as you climb in altitude. This inversion is quite a strong inversion, we can see over here. So the chances of getting a climb off the mountain and climbing above 4,500 or 5,000 is not that good. You're going to be held down to those heights. Let's look at the wind. This is the boundary layer wind for 2 o'clock, just to get an idea of the big picture. As you can see, this is southeasterly flow coming in from the Indian Ocean. It flows up the Breda River Valley, round Waihoek, into the Tilbach Valley, out and along the Porterville Ridge, and eventually curls round across the Renosterhoek Ridge and onto the Cederberg. Let's look at that in some more detail. This is a 2 o'clock wind, the surface wind, and the high resolution chart. Now we can see a little bit more interesting things here. There is in fact a component of the wind onto the Langeberg, right from, this is from Ashton through to Brandbach and past Ordenburg. Some more on the back of Waihoek, a little bit on Mostutzhoek, and then onto the Witzenberg as well. We can see that Slanghoek has a windward component, and also Vic Peak and the ridge down towards Filierstorp. By 5 o'clock, zooming out again, the surface wind, at 2 o'clock still, we can see here at Renosterhoek, it does actually flow onto the ridge at Renosterhoek, not very fast, maybe 6 knots, and then on towards the Cederberg, and from Ashton to Swellendam, it's pretty much parallel with the ridge, and then there's a windward component as you go east of Swellendam. Moving out to 5 o'clock, on the detailed map we can see this wind is actually coming quite parallel to the Langeberg now, quite parallel to the Witzenberg, and flows out of the gap towards Porterville. Slanghoek and Vic Peak still working. The wind speed is picked up to about 15 to 18 knots in the valley there. Zooming out, we can see on the Porterville Ridge the wind speed is picked up 10 to 12 knots, and on the Cederberg as well. Coming into past Swellendam towards Ashton, it's also picked up quite a lot, 15 knots perhaps. Because it's a blue day, the next thing to look at is the height of the inversion layer, to give us an idea of what the instability actually is. And we can see this is the high resolution chart around Worcester, that we've actually got an inversion up to between 5,000 and 6,000 feet in places. From Robertson eastward it's about 4,000 feet, and Porterville side also about 4,000 feet, and in the Tilbach Valley we have this dead spot here, but on the ridges still also maybe 4,000 feet. Zooming out, see there's a section between Swellendam and Ashton, that gets below to about 3,000 feet. The Worcester hook also gets down to maybe 2,500 feet. So a little bit limited. Let's see where we can go. This is Swellendam at 2 o'clock. You can see that inversion is already below 4,000 feet and the wind is quite parallel to the ridge. So not a very strong situation, and by 5 o'clock it's faded completely. If we turn short at Robertson, we can see it's a little bit better, just over 4,000 feet, wind quite parallel to the ridge, and at 5 o'clock it's also fading rapidly. Try to the north, Porterville, at 2 o'clock, inversion is a little bit lower, but the instability is there. The wind is quite parallel to the ridge. It should work, but it'll be a bit slower. But by 5 o'clock, also showing signs of fading, and you can see this wind notching in. This is the southerly wind that comes in from the sea, and that actual inversion is dropping down. At Tulbach, 2 o'clock, it's a little bit messy. We saw the dead patch on the out of the inversion chart. There is something going on there. Let's go out to 5 o'clock. Looking actually a little bit better, but there's this wind nosing in. It's very parallel to the Witzenberg. And it's not totally unstable. If we get back to Worcester at 5 o'clock, we can see that Worcester itself is also fading, inversion dropping below 4,000 feet. And this wind is clearly spurting through the valley. Finally, having a look in the morning at 11 o'clock, you can see that we'll be gridding on 1.5, and we definitely won't start launching until well after 11 o'clock, because that inversion has got to break up before we can get going. So overall, not a strong day tomorrow, similar to today, but no cloud, lower inversion, and the wind looking quite parallel to the ridge in places. Just something else that I should mention. I think if we go back to Robertson at 2 o'clock, we see that this inversion layer is just over 4,000 feet, and that matches the height of the ridge between Worcester and Robertson, or in places. And that's a formula that we find if the inversion layer is more or less the same height as the ridge. We get some areas where the airflow can flow over the ridge, and some areas where it can't, and combined it makes a very turbulent conditions, and it can be very rough. So if you are on the ridges tomorrow, please keep your speed up, be careful, don't be tempted to slow down too much. You might find you run out of aileron control. Well, that's our wrap of the forecast for this competition. Tomorrow's the last flying day. I hope you've enjoyed the flying that we've had so far. I'm not too sure how much flying we'll get in tomorrow, but what flying we do get, please enjoy it, fly carefully, and we'll talk to you again maybe next year. Thank you.